So welcome, guys, everyone that's joining us to Profit Meets Purpose. My name is Jack Blenkinsop. I am B1G1's Partnerships Manager. And before I introduce our wonderful guest today, what I would like to do is start with a question. And that question was posed by the former CEO of Unilever, Paul Polman, who is also a friend of B1G1's. It was in his Net Positive book that he asked, is the world a better place because your business is in it? And I think this is a really, really great question. It's a question I'm going to repeat. Is that good? Is the world a better place because your business is in it? And the reason I wanted to start with that question is because that question is actually central to what we do here at B1G1. We provide a platform for businesses to create a meaningful impact just by doing what they normally do so that they can become a force for good. You see, here at B1G1, we believe, and our members believe, and they show this, that actually being a business for good is not just good for the world, but it's great for business too. And it's largely the reason for why we started this Profit Meets Purpose web series, because we want to spotlight businesses who are doing great things here at B1G1. And they have shown, and they continue to show, that when you align purpose and profit, it leads to fantastic things. It leads to increased growth. It leads to deeper relationships with your team and your customers and clients. And ultimately, it allows you as a business to create a lasting impact. So that's why we're running this series. And I want you to keep that question from Paul Polman in mind throughout this episode today. And a company who is creating lasting impact for sure is run by this gentleman that I'm joined with today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce today's guest. He's a friend of mine. He's also the CEO of Peak PEO, who are a B1G1 member. I'd like to welcome Alex Voakes. Welcome to the show today, mate.
A pleasure to be here, Jack. Yeah, and I'm grateful to be introduced as a friend as well, because I consider the same. So yeah, we've been chatting about running for the last 15 minutes before this went live. So that's
Yeah, I think that was probably a good idea. Like I said at the top of the show, if we'd done that on the show, I don't think that we would get to the Profit Meets Purpose piece at all. So, but I'll tell you, to start us off, Alex, there'll be some people on the event or people that are tuning in that do know about PPO, but for those that don't, if you can just give us a snapshot of what PPO is and what you guys do there, that'd be awesome.
We're an international employment organization. So we do international employer of record services, like some of the big HR tech firms in the industry, but we've been doing this a longer period of time. But we're the people-led, purpose-driven alternative to some big tech platforms in our industry. So the reason you might use our services is hiring a remote team, first steps into an international new market. And that's exactly what we do. Like in terms of I can sometimes consider ourselves as the outsourced HR department for international employees, and we can help build remote cultures and keep everything compliant. Compliance is the baseline of what we do, right, in our industry. But everything else we do of building that purpose and stuff on top of it and looking after people with heart and intention is the difference with Peak.
Yeah, and you do it exceptionally well, by the way. And we're going to come to that, don't you worry.
Okay.
But what I would say about you, Alex, and about our previous conversations, because you and I have spoken a lot over the last year since you joined B1G1, is that I think it's fair to say that your journey to becoming CEO of Peak PEO was somewhat unorthodox. But I think it's an awesome journey, and I think it shaped the person that you are and the leader that you are. So it'd be great if you could just share a little bit about that journey with those listening in.
Well, this is another topic that we could talk about for a long period of time, so I will keep it short. Okay. Yeah, so my career history is I never thought I'd end up doing this at all, like at any point in my life until the moment that it happened, honestly, because for the first 10 years of my professional career, I performed stand-up comedy as a job, from starting from the very bottom, working my way up to like a decent level and like starting to get some interesting conversations going and then falling back down onto the circuit because there's like a two-tier system. But yeah, like, so I spent the ages of 20 to 30 performing stand-up comedy all over the UK. It's basically a driving job a lot of the time. I'd work for half an hour at a time, but I'd be driving 4 hours either side of that to go to all points of the country. Had an amazing experiences. Like anyone my age you see on UK TV, I will probably know them. That's so it's made a weird thing out of the TV in my house where it's like, oh, I know that person. I can see them. So that's my interesting career background. But what happened was that after a long time of doing that, I kept getting these opportunities with the right person was in the right room. Let's say, like I'd go to Exeter, right? There'll be 400 people in the room, but those people don't work in the media industry in London, and that room would go incredibly well. It took getting into small rooms with the one right person in there who can make a difference. As so many things are in life, right? I'd get those opportunities would come. I'd get invited into a meeting in London or whatever to say, "Oh, mate, do you fancy doing something like this?" And at those time, I was 24, idealistic about what I thought I was, and I just completely bricked those meetings. Like the meetings I've messed up most in my life was like a good opportunity in front of me, and then thinking, just being a bit too artistic and tied to my values, which we'll come on to about how I want to present myself, and be straight back onto the circuit. So that happened 3 times. And then the next night, I'll be driving up to Huddersfield or wherever, back on the circuit. And then when I got to around 30, it was like, I really need to sort of shift something and get a more steady income and sort of settle down a bit, because I wasn't seeing my wife who worked in the daytime. I worked in the evenings, and I this all good. Okay, yeah. So the thing that happened was my dad was running an international employment organization at that time, and his one employee had left that summer. And that summer, I just went to him to, can I get some work experience over the summer? Because at the moment, I'm unemployable. My CV says that I performed stand-up comedy for 10 years, and now I want to do something else. And it's like, if you're like flicking through some CVs here, like, that's not the guy for us, right? So I sort of started getting some work experience that summer, and it turns out I'm still here 10 years later. So that's what's happened.
So, and how was that journey, would you say? I mean, you talk about this people first philosophy, Pete, which is central to what you do. How has that, your own personal experience, shaped that people first philosophy at PPO, do you think?
Well, I think the things I really bring from it is that I really like talking to people. Like in terms of I want to make in a comedy situation, I'm looking to like entertain people, make them have a good evening. But also like my background is I don't understand what a business looks like in terms of what a traditional business looks like. So I've just brought new perspective to it in terms of this is from this point on. This is what I think a business should be doing and should look like, because I haven't been stuck by profit metrics or anything like, real things you'd have to break down to create. So from the point of 30 to now, I just started building a business that I thought just experimenting with to do that. But the other thing it gives me, because like stand-up comedy is basically a microphone and an audience. That's it. It's like pure form of entertainment, and you can do what you like, in terms of you can literally just have a thought on the way to the gig, and you can try it. So I sort of bring that same mentality to here of having conviction to experiment and try things and not wait for others to try it. You have to take a few risks to find out, to find progressive working practices that suit the team and these sorts of things. So that's completely the attitude I bring here, of some creativity and then conviction in following through on those principles.
Yeah, very good. I think it's fair to say that you and I know this from what you've said in the past and what you see on the PPO website, is that businesses, they thrive when their people do, right? That's what is core to your belief. So I guess what I wanted to ask here was, why do you feel now more than ever that profit and purpose is inseparable in the employment landscape? Why now more than ever?
Well, I think it just seems critical. Like when you're not getting action from various things in life, like in terms of like in politics and even in individual giving within wider society, it's important to act on your principles and try and create the world you want to see. And even if that's a small aspect, like in terms of like the impact we can make isn't going to change the world, but it takes companies like us and delivering actions and influencing other businesses to do the same, and you can create the world you want to see in that. But all these things take action of people making a difference and acting on their principles, and that's why I think it's more important than ever at this point to really not phone this stuff in, and rather than being despondent by what you see in the news or anything, make your own world that you want to see and just try and influence others, no matter how small that is.
Yeah, it's great advice. It really is. And I mean, it's funny actually, just before we jumped on the call, I was saying to you, how long have you been a V1G1 member now, right? Because you and I chatted when you first joined, and it's going to be a year this month. And we were chatting about, in that time, PPO have created just over 300,000 impacts with us here at V1G1. And for those that don't know what an impact is, that is essentially the unit of measurement that we use for giving, right? So that could be, it could be trees planted, it could be education provided, access to clean drinking water. So PPO have created just over 300,000 of these micro impacts, which is just absolutely awesome in the time that you've been with us. So what I wanted to ask you here was just how has the partnership with B1G1, how has that impacted the way that you do work? How has it impacted, what sort of measurable impacts have you seen with the way that you deal with clients or your team members? It'd be awesome to hear that from you.
I think what it really gives us is it gives us authenticity of what I'm talking about. So when I talk, like, I often project these sorts of ideas, but it really brings the authenticity to it. If we're like every aspect of our business is creating those impacts, but that's externally and internally. So if people internally hear me talking about we're trying to be a business for good, if they see that they can literally play with the B1G1 tool and create impact by making Slack messages, booking meetings, anything, they can really feel and believe that the stuff that I talk about is serious and legitimate. And then externally, when we talk about it, if like our first interaction with a client is putting up the engagement tool and making them make an impact, it's like, oh, these guys are legit. And that's what I want to feel, because we are. Like, I'm really trying to do this stuff like with the best of intentions, good of my heart. And it's hard to get that across, like, because so many people say that, but how many people actually do something about it? So B1G1's that sort of like the process that really builds that into our business and lets us be the business that we want to be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you talk about authenticity, and you're saying, trying to live that right through the way that you lead. And I think you're, one of the most authentic leaders that I've spoken with actually since I've been at B1G1, because you really believe in these things that you're saying, and you're trying to put it into practice within the company. You mentioned the engagement tool there, which is obviously just the B1G1 tool, which allows team members, clients, prospects to actually choose the impact, right? So you provide them with a pre-selected list, and they can choose the impact that's created. What's generally been the reaction that you get from those that you share this with when you're given that opportunity to create an impact?
Well, first of all, it's like a fun part of the day for the team to build out. Like, instead of like, we do like some very detailed work within the company, but if we put purpose behind it and give people like they're making an impact internally, that's a fun part, to choose the impacts that we're going to be pushing out and stuff. That it makes me happy to do that sort of stuff. But then externally, like like just you and like we don't get to, like what for me personally, I don't hear the feedback so much as other members of the team. So, but what I know it does is that when we're in a very competitive market, that's where we are, and to cut through at that point where this is the business decision at this point rather than just the purpose. But the purpose is true and real, but at that business decision, it shows that we do mean it. And I think that's the key thing. Like, you're always trying to, and that thing about, if we act on our principles and try and influence other businesses, even if it's just to win some business there, I want that company to think that's a cool idea. Maybe I should get in touch with Jack and build that into my own business. And it's like those sorts of bold like actions and interactions with other businesses to try and influence their behavior, like to behave better. Like that's and as I said, that's how you make change in the world. It really feels like you just have to go out there and make tiny impacts. We don't tell people you 100% should have this in your business. We just show them that it's a positive aspect. Like, this is what it gives us, and sort of make people think about that sort of thing. So that's what. So even with that, like I'm sure people do like it. I don't know the answer to that, but even if they're just like feeling that they don't feel either way, it's the impact left internally. The actual impact that's happening, like, 'cause that goes, it's not just a metric, it is making a legitimate impact, and then leaving a thought in someone's mind of, oh, maybe there is a way I can build this into my business. And then they do the same thing, and then we're making change.
That ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
And so how many team members there at Peak at the moment?
21.
21. So it's clear that actually the use of B1G1 within the business is engaging the team and making them feel good. And from what I can gather as well, they're involved in the project choices as well, and where that impact is being created.
I think that's critically important for internally the team to share it with everyone. So that I think one thing like just go back to my history, right? it's not that I don't know what I'm doing, right? I do, but I know that they're getting specialists in here who do have experience of business in terms of financially, and that if I can create a cool place for them to work and make them feel like we've got an impactful job, we're doing something different, it creates an incredible team so that I can do what I've found that I'm good at doing in terms of talking to you, Jack. Yeah, so but you know, like like with B1G1, if I didn't do, if I just talked about this stuff and they didn't see that interaction they're having with the tools and stuff, like creating impactful jobs within service industries, that gives people pride in their work over the top of the actual skills they're bringing to the job. So it's just an extra level of like building purpose into a job. Like my wife works at a humanitarian aid organization, and she gets lots of statistics about how many people want to work impactful jobs and like you know make a difference in the work they're doing. Well, one thing I think we can do is turn all jobs into impactful jobs by the businesses having the correct attitude around it, and then more and more people can work in impactful jobs, and then we build a team. We build a cool team of like professionals that we wouldn't normally be able to if we didn't do this stuff. Lots of the team here wouldn't work with us. You know, like I'd be much have a much trickier time in retaining staff, and but like B1G1 is the thing that builds that into our network, builds it into the company, and every interaction that people are having in it, and they know they're making a difference. So that's
Yeah.
it.
That's so cool. It's so cool to hear. It's so cool to hear. Because as I say, you've been a member now for just under a year. So whether it's the team or whether it's like new clients, whatever it may be, how have you seen the partnership with B1G1 helping Peak's growth over that last 12 months, do you think?
I think it's like been the complete catalyst for us, like to build a business for good. Like so, it's no lie that a year ago, Jack, that you were the first business for good interaction I had with anyone, because I had a generic business where I'd had honestly imposter syndrome about my background, and I just went all out to turn this business into my ideals of what I'd built up throughout my life. And I came to a conversation with you this time last year where I was nervous to talk to you because I needed to represent that I was legit and trying to do this for the good when we didn't have any other certifications, anything. And so B1G1 has been the catalyst for, first of all, talking to you, understanding other businesses do these sorts of things, seeing those sorts of the sorts of tools you can bring into our business. I'd got off of those calls, went and spoke to some team members here saying, like, we have to do this. Like, this is exactly what we're looking for. But then with that, we built it into the business, all throughout the business, every sort of interaction. And then from there, we can push on to further certifications and like representations. And then so that when customers come to us, they see those sorts of certifications that we have and they know we're legitimate. But B1G1 was the first point of call for us because it's the thing that really transformed the fabric of our business, rather than just a certification that we sit with and market and try and like live. That's the one that every interaction in the business is banking off of your own software that creates the impact. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was the foundational stone of it.
That's very, very cool. And I remember the conversation really well. Yeah, I remember coming off the call and just feeling like, actually, even before I came off the call, just you know, your passion for wanting to give back and create a meaningful impact, and crucially embedding this into the heart of the business was palpable through the conversation, and it just felt like such a good fit when we first spoke 12 months ago, and obviously the impact you've gone on to create is just remarkable. So obviously we've looked back at the last 12 months a little bit, but how about moving forward? How would you say the partnership with B1G1 is influencing the company's sort of long-term strategy, and how because you obviously you do other great things outside of B1G1, but how is B1G1 helping to shape that long-term strategy and ensure that purpose is continuing to be like at the heart of what you guys do?
Think like like as I said on the last one, it's become the foundational stone of the business of how we build a purpose into it. Like so like or the future strategy is always going to be the complete what we do as a business is the stone next to the purpose of B1G1, because then interactions of how we do our business isn't just Slack messages. It's like onboarding new employees, it's in terms of our customers' employees, any kind of invoicing or interaction or processing some variables for a monthly cycle. That's where B1G1's attached to them, and we're making an impact all the way through that journey. So just as I couldn't imagine how I could represent this without B1G1 in it. Like I think one thought I often have is that to make like an impact, like in previous times before B1G1, we'd have to stand in a car park with a giant check at the end of the year, and and now just to have it like as the fabric and framework of our business, and then we log into it in every 3 weeks or something, and there's another 50,000 impacts or something in there. That's so much more satisfying than thinking, oh, it's the end of the year, we're scrambling around, we need to do something and then going and standing in a in a car park. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. No, it's, I mean, I think that's the sort of traditional way of giving back through business, right? Is that traditional charity partnership. And there's obviously nothing wrong with that. And businesses do that still. And that's great. And I think there are lots of independent charities who B1G1 doesn't partner with, who should, receive support, and they do. But I think ultimately it comes back to businesses wanting to do more than just fundraise and donate money, but they actually want this to be a habitual aspect of what they do, right? It's something that becomes so ingrained in their day-to-day operations that they don't even need to think about it. Like you're saying, you're logging in every 2 or 3 weeks, and you're, because of the automations in place and because of how you've set it up, this giving is happening on its own. These impacts are being created just by doing what you do every day, right? And it takes that hassle out of it for a lot of our members, that they can choose projects they really love, and they can link them to everyday activities, and it just takes care of itself in the background, and you can see in real time the impacts going up and up. And I'm sure seeing those impacts going up and up is awesome for you and the team to see, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's incredible for us, and like on a marketing perspective, we can use those figures that are really easy and clean to see the impact we're having, to be initially surprised by them, and then put them out in a marketing thing to show the authenticity and the legitimate impact we're having. That's a really satisfying process for us. Yeah, it's like I couldn't be like to a oh yeah, I'll tell you this, man. We discovered B1G1. This might be an interesting thing, right? I think I've told you this before. Is because we were going for a B Corp certification, which that takes a long time. We're not there yet, so we're going for we're doing that. One of the questions is to have a committed giving, like a regular thing, and the recommended one on there is 1% for the planet. But 1% for the planet wipes out our margin because we're a payroll company, so the payroll comes in. So like I can put purpose as far into this business as I want, but if I put that in, people are going to be worried, right? Okay, so and we're looking for an alternative. And Joe Lord, the B Corp consultant we were using, said, "Have you heard of B1G1?" And it's like immediately went on your site and was like, "Man, this is it. This is exactly like this is it." So yeah, that's our start with you guys.
Yeah, so cool, so cool. Yeah, I remember the conversation. I remember Joe introducing you, and she's great too. But look, what I want to do here is, because we only have a few minutes left, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the chat. I haven't really, but I can see there's lots of great stuff coming in here from some members, some non-members too. There's some really cool stuff in there. And I know Shabaka, my colleague, is here too, and she's answering any questions you may have. But what I would love from you, actually, just to kind of round this all off, is I think if there's one thing that kind of sticks out in my mind from our very first conversation almost a year ago, is that your willingness, your individual willingness, but also your willingness as a company just to take action. Like, I think I read something online actually from you on LinkedIn maybe a little while back. It was like, if I think something's a good idea, I don't overthink it. I just do it, right? It's just like, if it seems like a good idea, I just want to take action and make it happen. And I love that about PPO when we spoke a year ago, is that we had a great conversation. Answer any questions you have, but you were just like, this is a great fit. I just want to get going with this. So I guess my question here is, if you were to provide like one piece of advice for any business that's looking to, like a practical piece of advice for any business that's looking to embed more purpose into what they do, what would that be?
I think it's exactly what you're saying, Jack. It is taking that action, like, and having conviction about your thoughts and taking action. And don't feel hopeless about the state of the world. Just try and, like, it takes individuals taking action, and then that ripple effect, as you mentioned, to really change the world. And that might be like a completely lofty goal and a nonsense stuff, but it takes people doing those sorts of things to enact change. Like all the big change in the world has happened from 4 or 5 people in a room at one point talking about it. Right. So if we talk about impact and then we keep talking about it, influencing other businesses, and keep trying to make the world that we want to see, who knows where we can get to? And like for us, like just take action on the world you want to see. That's it.
Yeah, awesome. Great advice. And you know, I mentioned at the top of the episode here, Paul Polman's quote, right? And I said, it's a question, right? Is the world a better place because your business is in it? And there is no doubt that the answer to that question for Peak PO is a resounding yes, right? Like the stuff that you guys do and the impacts that you're creating are just unbelievable, and it's just so ingrained. And I think that's largely thanks to you, Alex. I just want to take this opportunity to say, like, thank you for all the hard work that you've done to embed B1G1 into your operations. And it all comes back to impact, right? Having a positive impact, both globally on those that need it, but also on the business, right? So how I want to kind of close the episode today, because we've just got a few minutes left, is to give everyone who's in attendance here the opportunity to create a positive impact. So what's going to happen is Shabaka is going to share a link in the chat, which you can click on. If you prefer to do this on your phone, you can scan the QR code that Shabaka will also share. Alex mentioned earlier on the B1G1 engagement tool, where you can select a few projects and share those projects with clients, prospects, team members to choose what impact is created. If you click on that link or scan the QR code, you'll be given a few projects to choose from. So I would love for you guys to go ahead and choose one of those projects and create a positive impact in the world, just because you're on the call today. And if you are not yet a part of the B1G1 community and you have been inspired by anything that Alex has said today, I personally have found it very inspiring, and I know a lot about Alex already. But if you're not a part of the community and you think this sounds awesome, firstly, can you put an A in the chat for me if you think that this conversation has been awesome, you've loved hearing what Alex has to say. But on that link that you click on, or that QR code you scan, you will be given the opportunity to explore B1G1 further if you would like. So if this is something you would like to chat more about, I would love to connect with you. I'd love to have a chat and see if there's a good fit with your business and B1G1. So when you click on that link or scan the QR code, please go ahead and let us know if you would like to explore B1G1 further, because I would personally love to have a chat with you and see if there's a good fit. So we are just coming up to time here. We've got a couple of minutes left. If there are any questions or comments in the chat, Shabaka should have picked those up. But I just want to take this opportunity to say, I think there's a lot of A's in there, by the way, Alex. I don't know if you can access the chat, but there's just...
in my experience of doing these things before, I mute that because it's like...
And actually, Dave Holby-Walensky has put, I think, 7 or 8 A's and a heart, which doesn't surprise me at all, because he is, as you probably know, Alex, one of the nicest people around. And actually, coincidentally, Dave is going to be the next guest on the Profit Meets Purpose web event in a couple of weeks' time. And so we're talking more about that on socials, and you can register for that event in due course. But I just want to take this opportunity again to say thank you so much. Firstly, to everyone that's here in attendance or watching the recording. I really hope that you found this conversation valuable. Alex, thank you for being here, for everything you're doing. Honestly, I really appreciate your time and just Peak PO doing wonderful things. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jack, honestly, and thanks for B1G1 being there for us. Like I don't know how we'd have done this without you. So yeah.
Good man, good man. Okay, I will speak to you very soon, Alex, and everyone else. Have a wonderful rest of today and enjoy the rest of your week. And we will see you very soon for the next episode. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Bye.